Welcome back to Horsepower. Ever stop to think how the American motor has evolved in its history? In terms of efficiency, reliability, and of course, power. Of course, despite that, the good old internal combustion engine has always needed three things to live: fuel and air to burn and make that power, and oil to keep the parts in here lubricated. Until 1972, there weren't too many choices in motor oil, but synthetics changed all that. And thanks to continued research and improvements, the advantages of synthetic motor oil in all motors has been well proven. Well, today Royal Purple is producing synthetics for every application, from mild street machines to high horsepower race cars. Independent tests show their oils reduce heat, wear, and emissions while improving engine efficiency and even torque and horsepower.
Horsepower? Well, that's where we come in. In fact, today we want to see if we can make any horsepower or torque gains from switching from an ordinary mineral-based oil to Royal Purple's 5W30. Now our test motor, well, it's a Chevy ZZ4 that has a 9-to-1 compression ratio and it's naturally aspirated. It's got trick flow heads, an Edelbrock intake, and a Holley 750 carburetor. A fairly basic engine for a daily driven street rod. After draining the oil and changing the filter that was on the motor, here's a tip that applies to any oil change. Before installing the new filter, fill it with new oil so there's plenty of lubrication for the startup. Also, smear some around the surface to make the filter go on and come off easier. Next, we add 6 quarts of the standard 10W30 oil. Warm up the engine until the oil temperature reaches 160 degrees, and we're ready to make our first dyno pull. We're making both of our runs today to 6,500 RPM, and that's where we'll make our comparison. All right, at 6,500 RPM, we made 376 foot-pounds of torque and 465 horsepower.
After the engine cools down, we drain the oil and change the filter just like before. Well, now we can add 6 quarts of the Royal Purple 5W30. By the way, the W doesn't stand for weight, it stands for the winter viscosity rating, which of course is 5. The 30 is the rating at high engine temperatures, which was the same in the other oil.
Of course, we're making sure the water and oil temperatures are the same for the second run. This run at 6,500 RPMs, we made 382 foot-pounds of torque and 473 horsepower. All right, our gains were 6 foot-pounds of torque and 8 horsepower. Now always remember, the more heat cycles you put the Royal Purple oil through, the more horsepower and torque numbers you'll see.
Yeah, and if we were using nitrous or a big turbocharger on this engine, we'd probably step up to their XPR Extreme Performance Synthetic. Either way, 8 more horsepower just for changing motor oil? Hey, I'll buy that anytime.